Welcome to Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. This show is dedicated to asking tough questions for you, the viewers. We bring you their responses, and we let you decide. Joining us here today at our MCTV studios, we are honored to be sitting with no other than Methuen State Representative, Ms. Linda D. Campbell. Ms. Campbell, welcome to the show.
Hector, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming in. It's nice and raining outside today.
Yes, it is.
Ms. Campbell, this looks to be another tough year with cuts and or tax increase for most cities and towns. How do you see this playing out, and what are some of the things the legislators are doing to bring relief to most cities and towns?
Right. It's, we certainly have made some progress in terms of the economy. We estimate that our revenues in the Commonwealth are probably going to be up about $1 billion. However, we're going to have to cut about $2 billion, Hector. And part of that is a lack of federal aid. But what is most important is the debt service to Medicaid and to pensions. So that in and of itself is going to take up $2 billion, and it's inflexible. It's there. You can't ignore it. So once again, we're going to be back to cutting some of the human services that are critically important to an actual small number of people in the Commonwealth. And in my opinion, this is a tragedy, because if we can make some simple changes with health care, which we are currently debating. It's had its first public hearing. That is probably the most important thing in the public sector. That's the elephant in the room, the public sector. So if we can address that, that will provide immediate relief to cities and towns. So that's the most important thing that we can do for them. It's going to be very political. It's going to be very drawn out. It's going to take, I would say, at least a year to get it done. But I hope we do it right, and so we don't have to come back and revisit it. So in a nutshell, that's where we are, and if we can address the health care situation for cities and towns, that will be an enormous accomplishment for everybody.
Yeah. And we see what's happening up in Wisconsin with the health care issue and the bargaining agreements and collective bargaining. Do you think that we're going to see the same thing that's happening in Wisconsin eventually end up here in Massachusetts?
I think there's a big difference between Wisconsin and what we have ongoing now in the Commonwealth in terms of our discussions. You know, in Wisconsin, as I watched it in the public media just like you, one of the things I noticed and heard over and over again was that the teachers weren't contributing or have not contributed at all to their pension system. And we have a different equation here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I think that it's going to be a conversation of discussion. I think there's going to be tremendous debate, and not everyone's going to agree on the health care issue. But because the unions have already come to the table, they have come to the table with, for example, some proposals on going into Medicare in their early 60s. That's huge for a city or town. If we can transfer from the health care obligations that these cities and towns have going out 20 years, which they cannot afford under any circumstances, so you know, people in the public sector can say, who have this going forward, well, I'm not going to compromise on this issue. My answer to that is, well, then you won't have health care because there will be no money. So major issues like this, the unions in the Commonwealth have already stepped up to the plate. They're stepping up to the plate on the health care issue as well. So I think you will always see a dialogue. The debate, as I mentioned, is going to be very testy, but I think you're going to see both sides compromise, because both sides will continue to be willing to sit down and talk. And quite frankly, I don't know how you get anything done without talking.
Well, I know that Methuen city employees took a pay cut a couple times throughout their years and their contract, and the teachers' unions in Methuen never took that cut. The federal government has released grants that will allow the school administrations to hire back teachers. Should that money be used in the negotiation rather than using taxpayer local money? Maybe that would bring some type of relief? What's your take on that? My personal belief as a parent is that if there's any money that we can spend to lower the student-to-teacher ratio, that's where we should spend our money. And I think in terms of the teachers in the Commonwealth,
as I mentioned, they're stepping up to the plate right now to offer some solutions for health care. And I think that there's going to be compromise there, but I think we're going to be able to solve that problem through negotiation. And then, of course, all the local teachers will be able to, I guess, benefit from that negotiation. So I think that's what you're going to see moving forward. And the budget last year, federal monies last year, were heavily weighted towards education. We're not going to see that now, and I think that that's a reality of life that teachers in general understand at this point. We've got so many other issues with cities and towns and the healthcare issue that the federal spigot is turned off, and they, like everyone else, is going to have to step up to the plate.
Now, you were credited for playing a big part in the Methuen High School renovation project. Can you tell us what the status is in regards to that project? When does it kick off? When does it start?
Right. Fortunately, the money for that project was obtained long before we had this bank collapse and housing collapse. So that money is still there, and we are on budget and on target to start construction this fall. And the city has done, I think, a great job in terms of trying to address where the students are going to go during construction, trying to keep that freshman class together. I think the school department and the teachers have stepped up to the plate here. And quite frankly, there's a lot of benefits of having freshmen in a separate location on their own to form as a class, but not only that, to just kind of make that transition from a smaller school to a very large school. So all is on track with that, and I think that that is going to go well for the community. And I think we have to thank the people in Methuen for stepping up to the plate, realizing that this money wasn't going to be available if we had turned this project down, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for making that important decision.
Now, we understand that there are so many issues besides the budget cuts, the people losing their local services and so on, taxes going up and so on. What are some of the hottest bills that are being thrown around at the State House right now? What are the legislators working on as a top priority? Can you tell us a few of those?
Absolutely. We just passed a workforce development bill which streamlines some of the, I call them excessive, the public-private partnerships that we have and some of the exorbitant salaries that we have in the Commonwealth for these positions. The governor submitted a bill. It was passed. It eliminated several executive positions where all of these abuses are transpiring. There's a lot more to be done, but it's a very good start. That was just passed last week. But the priority right now is getting the health care debate to the point where we can get it to the floor, and also getting some reform in the probation system onto the floor so it can be debated. Those public hearings are ongoing right now, and it is going to take a lot of debate before we get passed. So those are the priorities in the House. I think those are good priorities to start off with right now because they are going to take a long time to get to the floor, where we can compromise and get them passed. But those are the two priorities right now: are the getting the probation situation, I guess, resolved as to where it's going to be, who is going to have jurisdiction over it, and then, of course, the health care debate.
Yeah, that's it.
Those are ongoing. And if we can provide that legislation and pass it and give it to mayors and town managers and city councils and selectmen next year, that would be a great thing. And I think it can be done. But it's, like I said, it's going to take some time.
It definitely will.
Right.
I mean, the probation department has been a very hot topic with the scandal that's been going on. Also, the theft of the $2 million that occurred at the Lawrence District Court over 2 years ago. There is someone in custody, and they will be able to answer to the people, and they'll have their day in court. But how do you see that playing out, the probation department? Is it a power struggle between the court system and the legislation?
Absolutely. It's a power struggle between the executive branch and the judicial branch and the legislative branch. And therein really lies the problem. And as you're just, I think people understand that. And they've tried it different places, and really no one place seems to be perfect. There seems to be abuses in all places. So it's something that I think I'm still becoming educated on the issue, but I am kind of tending towards the fact that maybe it should be in the court system. But I'm not there yet. I still have a lot more homework to do on this particular issue. But it will change, and it will have to be resolved. There's no doubt about it.
And hopefully it will change for the better for the people and the taxpayers who contribute to these programs.
Right.
Now, last year there was a stalemate in regards to the casino bill. Mm-hmm. Do you think the people of Methuen or the Commonwealth will get to have a casino somewhere in Massachusetts? Is that going to be discussed or brought up or something?
Right. Prohibit me from smiling about this. There has been casino legislation submitted in the House, and it is going through committee. So that means that it is a priority for the Speaker. And I do think that we will get something in the House. However, because people have such a bad taste in their mouth from this last debate, I don't think the Speaker will bring it up unless himself, the Governor, and the Senate President, Therese Murray, can agree on something. Because it really was. It was very frustrating. And I think one of the things that I received now, I'm starting to receive now some requests from citizens in Methuen. We're going to get this done. Will you please help get this done? And I write back to them. I said, I will be supportive of this. However, you have to understand that this decision is going to be made between the Speaker and the Governor. And for the Speaker to go get 160 people to agree with him, and the Senate President 40, and then to have the Governor change his mind at the last minute cannot happen. Because you can understand, if you are a representative from the western portion of Massachusetts or the Cape, you have different priorities than I have up in the Merrimack Valley. And to get us to agree on something is very, very difficult. So I recommend that and I tell them, I of course will do my part. I said, but you need to write to the Governor, and you need to say, you need to work with the legislature on this issue to get something done.
Well, we know that there are many abuses going on in the system. Perjuries are not prosecuted, restraining orders handed out like candy, taxpayer dollars being wasted, and the people losing services and all their taxes going up.
Right.
What can government start doing to ensure that people are being held accountable and taxpayer dollars are not being wasted?
That is a question that needs to be asked. I just want to give you some information here that I think is so important to the overall debate. You know, we had talked about Wisconsin, and that's such an important question. I think Massachusetts, as I mentioned, is in much better shape than Wisconsin, and the numbers prove that in terms of our economy. However, one of the things that disturbs me and what I see coming to my office in terms of requests for assistance is still on the issue of foreclosures. And it just, I don't know how to say it politely, but it makes my blood boil, literally. And these are people that lost their homes because the economy tanked, because we had a banking crisis, and then we had a housing crisis. And to answer your question, I think a lot of people should have gone to jail in that particular instance, and I think that applies to other areas as well. I think where there's an abuse, a clear abuse, I think you get jail time, and there's no questions asked, there's no plea bargaining. This is what you get. You know, I think if Teddy Roosevelt were alive today, he was a progressive Republican. I think that there'd be a lot more people going to jail right now, because you know and I know we have the issue in Wisconsin, but the larger issue, the more important issue, and it's so important here in Massachusetts, is our shrinking middle class, who pays the bills. Let me just give you a number here, if I could. 83% of all U.S. stocks are in the hand of 1% of people. For the first time in U.S. history, banks own a greater share of residential housing net worth in the United States than all Americans put together. In 1950, the average executive's paycheck, the average comparison, the ratio to the average worker's paycheck was 30 to 1. Okay, so you're talking the executive of a very large corporation, 30 to 1. Since 2000, that ratio has exploded to between 300 to 500 to 1. Okay? This is the picture, I think, that's so important in the Commonwealth. There are abusers at high levels, and we've seen those paraded in the paper. But I think, again, we have to realize that the average pension in the public pension in the Commonwealth is about, $22,000, and that's a pension that someone paid into every month. I say let's focus on the big boys and girls that have done a tremendous disservice to all of us. Let's focus on correcting this situation, and it can be done. I don't know if you saw Martha Coakley last week. In some respects, some of these things are locked in by law, and so the next 5 or 6 years or so, we're going to see these absurd pensions playing out with very legal ability to address them in court. And but the changes that we've made that are going to come into focus after a 6 to 10 year period are going to eliminate these abuses. And but we're going to see them playing out, unfortunately, going forward. But there's a lot of things that we can do. First of all, we can throw people in jail when they need to be thrown in jail. And secondarily, we can do what Martha Coakley does, and this is something that I can do to gain leverage. I can make their life miserable. So if Blue Cross and Blue Shield wants to pass all of those exorbitant, unmoral paychecks onto their CEOs and executives and their board, well, we can make life miserable for them. And it has an effect, because Tufts and also Harvard Pilgrim are going back to the boardroom, and they're going to make some changes. So this is what we can do. We can make life very miserable for these people that would really, they're robbing the taxpayers' money. Yeah. So there's a lot we can do and should do.
One of the other issues is alimony reform. I know that last year there was a big push for alimony reform. As it stands right now, it's a lifetime sentence for people that end up getting divorced and so on. Right. Will we see a bill coming forward this time? To reform the alimony laws?
Yes, I do believe so, and I want to thank you for your work in this regard. The legislation that you submitted and pushed forward has become part of the discussion, certainly, and part of the solution. And you are more aware of it than I am, but I would just like to tell the viewers that when Hector pursued this issue, you were correct in pointing out that our system is about 20 years behind that of most states in the country. It's just a long overdue for reform. And I think Rep. Hernandez, the legislation that he's put forward with the Judiciary Committee, I think is moving forward. And I think people recognize that this is the time to make this change. So it's a long process, Hector. It takes years.
Well, just want to remind the viewers, you are watching Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. If you have a question for any of your government officials or legal representation, send us an email at thehectormontalvoshow@yahoo.com or visit our website at behindthescenes.weebly.com. We're joined today here at our MCTV studios by Methuen State Representative Ms. Linda D. Campbell. And Ms. Campbell, I just wanted to ask you real quickly, what are some of the issues that you're working on now for the city of Methuen, not just statewide, but just for the city of Methuen, for those who are watching?
I think the issue that I've been most involved with at the current time in the legislation that I've submitted focuses mostly on the health care debate, because I'm trying to carry a request for borrowing for the city of Methuen. I think a very important, a very legitimate request to address health care issues. So, and I've filed some pension reform. We've capped the pensions, but they need to be capped further. There's several pieces of legislation that pertain to the MSPCA that happens to be located, a very large facility here in Methuen. I filed some legislation for them as well, and also some veterans legislation. So most of the legislation that a representative will file will pertain to the entire Commonwealth. But the areas that I've focused on have been the areas of pensions and health care, because in my particular community that I represent, these are the most important issues to the people that I represent, without a doubt.
Now, you know, one of the issues that my show focuses on is basically the abuse that's going on within the welfare system, the Section 8, the court system, trainings, and so on. Within the welfare system, as it stands right now, a single parent or a divorced parent can go in and apply for welfare assistance, money, food stamps, and so on. But what's interesting to us is that 99% of the times is a mother going in for these assistance, but the actual father of the actual child is always ordered, in all cases, to repay back the Commonwealth. Is there anything that the legislation could do to, A, to stop the abuse of welfare fraud and so on, but mainly to hold people accountable? If you go into the welfare system, both parents should be paying back the money that was given to them, and not the other way around. Is there anything that the state legislation can do to put something together to ensure that the taxpayers are getting paid back the money that was issued, and not just creating hardship for one individual person that will most likely be ordered to pay back that particular money? What can be done in that aspect, do you think?
Quite a bit can be done. I think the most important thing that needs to be done, and this was brought out in the press recently about the abuse of food stamps. Now, guaranteed the vast majority of people, especially in our economy right now, we talked about statistics pertaining to wealth, and I'll bring up one more because it's important to this discussion, okay? The top 10% of Americans now earn 50% of our national income. And what's most important, I think, for this particular discussion is the bottom 1% of our country's wealth. The bottom 1% of our the bottom 1% of our wealth goes to 50% of the folks in this country. So you have folks that are hurting, and there are needs for these services, tremendous needs. And I think if you look at, if you were just able to be out in the community and talk to the folks that I talk to, they're not making ends meet right now. They're definitely not making ends meet. So I think what you have to do in this situation, Hector, and it's a matter of political priority, instead of paying people, instead of people getting $300,000 pensions, okay, why don't we hire some folks that make $30,000, $40,000 a year that can report abuses in the system? The legislation is there right now, the way it's written to encourage good public behavior. What we need is we need inspectors. We need inspectors, and it's time-consuming. They have to check these things out one by one. And until we're able to do that, we can pass a whole bunch of more legislation, but until we can enforce the legislation that's on the books, we're wasting taxpayers' money. So let's get some inspectors in to inspect the food stamp abuse system. Let's get inspectors in, likewise, to go through the books and to nail people, because that's what cleans the system up.
Yeah, and here in Massachusetts, we have a work-at-will state, which basically an employer can hire you and fire you for anything. Why is it so hard to get rid of union people that refuse to come to the table and negotiate? Is there something that can be done to you know, not sort of like the Wisconsin thing,
right,
but, you know, it's a work-at-will state, and it seems like there's one set of rules for the regular average person and a different set of rules for state, government, city employees. What do you think that would need to be changed in that?
I'm not trying to dodge this bullet, but I think that we have to consider in the Commonwealth what are our goals in terms of our quality of life. I don't think we want to go back to a system where workers have no rights. And I think in terms of our country, I think clearly that's the way folks feel. There have been so many abuses of workers in our country, and I don't think we want to go back there. So I think we need to find a balance, because some of the things that, that are included in union contracts are the ability to fix the problem if there is a problem. If there's work that's subpar, then that can be addressed, and it's not on the taxpayer's dime. So we have to be careful. And I think the big dig it presents us with a case study that we should learn from moving forward. It's not necessarily that unions are getting a lot more money in all cases. In some cases, there is. And I think we can come up with a much more competitive bidding process that can put more pressure on unions to lower their costs. But on the other hand, we have to, because these are large public projects, we have to ensure public safety. And the unions are one mechanism to do this, and it is important to taxpayers. But again, there are, I think, substantial cost benefits to having competition in the system, and I think that some of those can be put in place without jeopardizing some of the things that unions try and do.
Right. Well, I want to thank you, Ms. Campbell, for coming in and addressing our viewers on these particular issues. Really quick, before we go, we have less than 10 seconds. Will you be having backup singers at the Mayor Manzi St. Patrick's Day luncheon coming up?
Oh boy, I'll tell you, I will definitely be having a backup plan. You know, I'm a soldier. I got my orders, so I know what to do in that respect. But I will be attending. I'm looking forward to it as always, and off to the one in Lawrence right now. They're always good events, and we need opportunities to poke some fun at each other. Absolutely.
Well, we thank you for coming in, and we posted up your contact information, so if anyone wants to reach you, I want to thank you for coming in. I want to thank the crew at MCTV, the staff at MCTV, and I want to thank you at home for watching. Join us next time as we go behind the scenes to ask the tough questions, bring you their responses. We let you decide. Thank you for watching.